He's awesome. You know what I'm talking about? The Nomas. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Test, test, test. Good? Okay. Good evening again. Before we start the regular meeting, we have two public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is for proposed law C of 2025, a local law adopting the modification of hotel room occupancy tax law. That public hearing is open. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on the topic of local law C? If you will go to the mic, please. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Amanda Kirch-Gessner. I live in the town of Ulysses. I was just looking over this, and I was just asking Mr. Mezzi if the safety standards are who enforces the safety standards, and is that yet another unfunded mandate that's falling down to the local? Again, there's probably enough money in making sure that everybody's paying their tax, but it's still a matter of who's accountable. You know, is every code or enforcement office in the county going to have to step up? But there's all these exhausting gaps that present when we just pass whatever the state says to pass. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak in the public hearing for local law C? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing and open the next public hearing, which is for the 2025 New York State Community Development Block Grant Assistance. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on that topic? Welcome.
Thank you. I just want to introduce this concept. In order to use HUD funds that flow through New York State Office of Community Renewal, we need to have a public hearing. The county is working on a couple of applications. One of them through Planning and Sustainability is for $50,000 in HUD funds that would go towards a community planning project that would update our housing strategy, which expires this year. It was from 2016 through 2025, so we need new data that would support future applications for homeowner rehabilitation, septic replacement programs, mobile home replacement, other CDBG funding programs. This public hearing also covers any other CDBG use. So I know that our whole health department is working on an application for further septic replacement in the coming years. Since 1991, we've brought in $11.6 million of HUD funds for the county. The county does not automatically get this money like for an entitlement community like the city of Ithaca does. So every time we want to use it, we need to apply for it and go through this process of having a public hearing. I'm happy to answer any other questions if folks have them and open up to the public. Any discussion of community development needs that should use CDBG funding in the county.
Could you state your name, please?
Yes, for the record. My name is David West. I am the Housing and Community Development Director for the county.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that wanted to speak on the topic of the 2025 New York State Community Development Block Grant Assistance? Yeah, please, if that's your topic, please step up to the mic. Hi.
Hi, I'm Delia Yarrow. I work at INHS, and we've been working with the whole health department to plan an application for 2025 for well and septics for Tompkins County residents, so the replacement of well and septics. And I just wanted to say we're administering a grant currently with Tompkins County for repair services that cover houses in their entirety. The regulations have changed for the environmental review process for any kind of job that requires ground disturbance. Sorry about that. Something in my throat, allergies or something. And so the projects that we have done in this current grant that have required ground disturbance have been delayed by the new DEC regulations. we were talking with our environmental consultants, and we think we have a path forward to begin that environmental review process earlier so that hopefully if we are awarded the funding through the CDBG program, folks will be able to get their septics replaced on a slightly tighter time frame than we've been able to do with this new change in regs. So we're always responding and working to come up with a better process, but this is a new thing for us, and so we're excited to kind of have a plan not only to deal with what we know is often an emergency situation for folks, but hopefully tighten the time frame a little bit from where we've been with the current contract we have. So I just wanted to provide that update to everyone, and if anyone has questions for me, happy to answer.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak at the public hearing on the 2025 New York State Community Development Block Grant Assistance? Okay.
Question. Amanda Kirch-Gessner, Town of Ulysses. If this is related to like helping people replace their septics, I helped care for a property that couldn't replace their septic, had to tie into sewer, but then didn't qualify for the grant despite being eligible along all the other economic conditions. So I want to be sure that the follow through exists. Like we tried reaching out to Anna Kella's office related to it, to no response. I mean, they even sent certified mail looking for a response. So I don't know if somebody in here can help figure out how to help people access those resources, but they're not getting to the people in our community. Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak at the public hearing? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close that public hearing and open the regular meeting. Of the Tompkins County Legislature for September 2nd, 2025. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get a roll call of members, please?
Travis Brooks.
Here.
Randy Brown.
Here.
Amanda Champion.
Here.
Deborah Dawson.
Here.
Rich John.
Here.
Ann Corman.
Here.
Mike Lane.
Here.
Greg Mezzi.
Here.
Dan Nolan.
Here.
Veronica Pillar will be joining us shortly. Lee Shirtliff.
Here.
Mike Sigler.
Here.
Shauna Black.
Here.
Dan Klein.
Here. 13 members present. We have a quorum. So we intend to have one executive session tonight, and we will announce the purpose of that later. Is there any reordering of business that anybody would like to do? Okay, we can do that later if necessary. We are up to privilege of the floor. If you are interested in speaking under privilege of the floor, please go to the back of the room, fill out one of these blue cards, and bring it up, and we'll get you right in the queue. And if you are going to speak tonight, you're agreeing to some rules. I'm going to read those rules. I agree to a 3-minute time limit. I agree not to raise my voice. I agree not to use lewd, obscene, profane, slanderous, or libelous language, or speak or act in a manner that would tend to incite a breach of the peace. I agree not to speak about county personnel matters. Personnel matters include comments about the job performance of named county employees other than elected officials. After 3 minutes, I agree to leave the microphone and yield the floor. Transferring time to another person is not permitted. I agree to be courteous and not make comments, gestures, outbursts, or other disruptions while other members of the public or legislators are speaking. I agree that if I cause a disruption and am asked to leave, I will leave the chambers. First up, Zach Wynn.
Good evening. Two significant methamphetamine arrests occurred on August 20th and August 26th. The August 20th arrest resulted in the seizure of 4.5 ounces of methamphetamine on South Giga Street in the city of Ithaca, along with 4.5 ounces of cocaine and an amount of heroin. On August 26th, 38 grams of methamphetamine were seized during a drug deal at Conifer Circle, just outside the city. A month earlier, on July 26th, 2 pounds of meth were seized at Seneca Street parking garage, only a few blocks from here, along with quantities of crack cocaine and heroin. At the risk of stating the obvious, meth dealers serve meth users. There are many people in the county struggling with methamphetamine addiction, and the county is in the midst of a meth crisis. For an individual struggling with meth addiction, with drug addiction, the first step toward recovery is admitting there is a problem. The same is true for the county. If the county is to make real progress in addressing meth use, there must first be an acknowledgement of the scale of the problem. Meth is an especially destructive and insidious drug, eroding both the body and the mind. It is a driving factor behind many violent incidents, mental health crises, and property crimes in the community. This evening, you are voting on the use of opioid settlement funds to support Catholic charities, which is a worthy and important investment. But as you approach budget season, I ask, how much money is being dedicated to addressing the meth crisis? Beyond law enforcement arrests of traffickers, are there any budget items, programs, or initiatives aimed at combating the harm methamphetamine is causing in the county? I have personally seen what meth does to people. A close friend of mine was transformed by the drug into someone I could hardly recognize, no longer able to function normally, trapped by an addiction he desperately wished he could escape. Any funding directed this budget cycle toward meth education, prevention, and outreach to those currently using would be money well spent. Addressing the problem begins with acknowledging it and committing to act. I urge you to consider setting aside resources to address methamphetamine the same way you are addressing opioids. Thank you.
Amanda Kirsch-Gessner.
Good evening, Amanda Kirch-Gessner, Town of Ulysses. And as we approach budget season, I encourage us to ask ourselves, what do we want? What do we need? We need to really strip it down to essential services and start from there. And when you start asking people what's really truly essential, they will tell you it's roads and public safety. So people want safe roads to drive on so the fire department can get to their house or an ambulance can get there quickly. I mean, bike lanes probably make sense. Parks, so people can be outside and healthy. But really, what do we want? What do we need? We do not need a center of government building. It's a huge expense. We absolutely need a safer jail so that people can get to the detox facilities where the beds don't readily exist. We need a safer jail so our friends who need mental health stabilization can be safe in county care until they can get to stabilization. Unless you're gonna start building a mental health hospital, unless you're gonna start building a detox facility, we need to invest in our public safety building. We do not need a center of government building. Thank you.
Next up is Nevin Sabeh.
My name is Naveen Sabit, and I want to talk to you. I was living in the village of Lansing, but my lease was not renewed. It was actually like after I made a medical accommodation request, I was no longer allowed to renew my lease. And I also wanted to bring to, which, you know, that's illegal. I mean, it's like against the human rights law. And that brings me to the topic of protected classes under the New York State human rights law in regards to housing and public accommodation and employment. Protected classes, as you know, are like trans people or disabled people. But there's a protected class that the federal government, like HUD, doesn't recognize, but New York State human rights law does, and that's called source of income discrimination. And that's, what that is recognizing any lawful income, such as disability checks or Section 8, or grants or other maybe stipends from government assistance. So, you know, as you guys might recognize or realize that, like, for example, if you look in Craigslist, sometimes it'll just say no Section 8. That's totally, you know, you can't do that under the New York State human rights law. But what was it just recently introduced in the New York State session, Senate in this session of 2025, was to not only is to make it housing law, to add the source of income discrimination protected class under housing law. So that was just introduced this year, and then in 2026, it'll be up for vote. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I think it's really significant to have, to recognize this protected class, because a lot of, retired and disabled and student, vulnerable people, and, because we're a community that really, we care about people who maybe just don't have, as much money as everyone else, and especially if they have a lawful source of income. I just want to let you guys know that your constituents, hopefully, this bill will pass and there'll be a new protected class. So thank you very much.
Next up is Siobhan Smith.
Good afternoon. Before we talk numbers, we need to talk about values, because a budget is not just a spreadsheet, it's a moral document. It tells us who counts, who's protected, and who's left behind. Right now, our county's budget reflects a troubling silence. The Human Rights Office remains shuttered. Disabled residents face systemic discrimination with no recourse. Public safety and basic infrastructure, our roads, our emergency response, are all at the bottom of the list. And so I ask, what do we want to spend money on? And then what do we need to spend money on? Because the difference is unreal. Do we want more cosmetic projects that look good on paper, or do we need functioning systems that protect our most vulnerable? Do we want to fund silence and delay, or do we need to invest in accountability, transparency, and dignity? Because if our budget doesn't include disabled people, it excludes them. If it doesn't fund human rights, it denies them. And if it neglects public safety, it endangers all of us. I urge this body to recenter the budget around needs, not political convenience, not institutional whatever this is. Needs, human needs, legal obligations, and moral everything, y'all. Just, let's reopen the Human Rights Office. Let's fund disability access and enforcement. Let's fix the roads, the sidewalks. Let's actually put a priority on things that matter to the community. Because I don't know if y'all are outside walking, but it's hard. And not all of us are capable of making all of these steps. I'm running into people, elderly people that are falling on city streets. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand the concept of spending so much money on things that are pretty and shiny and new. Excuse me, maybe that's the wrong, new, right? Because that's what we're looking at. Let's spend money on new stuff. But what about the old stuff? It doesn't make sense. We can't keep rebuilding rather than fixing. It's got to be a fill the gap, not let's just do this again the same way, the same wrong way at that. It doesn't work. Thank you.
Next up is Tom Wright.
All right. There's been a lot of uncertainty at the federal and world level, and some of this happened previous due to business concerns basing all their efforts on efficiency instead of redundancy. There was a time when local areas, counties, states were somewhat independent and self-sufficient. Okay, that's a background. So I'm from Newfield, and I voted for Randy Brown because he wanted to give local volunteers in the EMS and the fire departments a rebate in county taxes. And I believe that was passed, right? And I thank you for that. My suggestion is, if instead of just a rebate to those worthy people, if they were given a transferable certificate with a denomination on it, and on that denomination it would say, this is acceptable payment to the county for taxes, fees, fines, or any other payment to the county, and that this currency, if you will, would be transferable, and that there would be an opportunity through this means to establish a local market. And the best case scenario is that it would simply just help hobbyists exchange their hobbies, outputs from a hobby to each other and promote community. But if something happens on the federal level or anything, we might need an initial way to help the county be able to support itself. And so a step for forming local markets. Thank you.
I don't have any more blue cards. If there's any members of the public that wanted to speak, now would be the moment. Okay, I want to thank all the speakers that came out to say their piece tonight. And we are now up to municipal officials' privilege of the floor. We've got two members of Ithaca Common Council, Pierre St. Perez and Patrick Keel. Welcome.
Hey everyone. As it turns out, we were pretty thorough last time, so, I will say again that tomorrow we're going to be discussing and voting on a restructuring of our public information and such departments into a new department called DICE, and we are going to be voting on a new purchasing protocol. Additionally, I do want to note, if the county ever did feel like giving us a nice amount of money to help fix the sidewalks, we would, I can say with a reasonable amount of confidence, accept it.
I will also just touch on this since it did come up in public comment. I'm actually very proud of the City of Ithaca's sidewalk program. I think it is pretty unique comparatively to other models for fixing sidewalks around the country. In many places, homeowners actually have to pay for their sidewalk replacements in front of their houses, which is not how we do it here. We pool money by district. So there's 5 sidewalk districts around the city. Homeowners and property owners pay a small amount each year into that district, and then that district funds the most in-need sidewalks in that district each year. And there have been in the past some problems with identifying which section of sidewalk is the most vulnerable. However, this year, members of the Common Council, I did this with my constituents, walked every inch of sidewalk in their districts, took photos of where they felt like were the most in need of repair, and then those were mapped by our engineering department, so we have a really accurate, or supposedly, hopefully, really accurate map of the most in-need sidewalks for replacement in the upcoming year. So I don't know if everybody in the county had updates about that, but that has been an ongoing at the city, and I'm pretty excited to see the results in the upcoming year.
Questions or comments for our Common Council of Representatives? Randy.
I'd just be happy if electric bikes weren't riding on the sidewalks. So now I'll share an experience I had a few days ago. So I turned left off Court Street on Cuga Street, and 2 bikes, and I think one of them had been motorized. One was flying down the sidewalk by Library Place, and an elderly lady with a dog had to get out of the way. They were going against the walking path. And the other one, at the same time, they were racing, was going opposite me on Cuga Street. And that's just one example. I see this all over the place. People are running stop signs. I've almost hit somebody. They just go right through these stop signs. I'm not sure what you're going to do about it, but it doesn't, people don't like to come down and deal with that. So I just want to share that with you.
Yeah,
if you deal with those types of things, it's just not something you want to deal with. So.
Yeah, I actually had a very similar experience a couple days ago on College Ave, so I feel the frustration there with having to dive out of the way of bikes. So you can imagine the speed at which those things get to on College Ave, going down the hill. So yeah, I can't speak for the city's perspective on this, but I can speak for my own and say that I would be in favor of increased enforcement on that as long as we're investing in bike infrastructure and making sure that people actually have a safe place to ride their bikes. That's not on the sidewalk.
Sure.
Yeah, and I will also, with any, as I understand it, or at least in my experience, this tends to be more of an issue during this time of year when a new crop of students comes in. Maybe they don't have experience with bicycle etiquette, et cetera. Not that it's not an issue generally, but more so now. We have a vibrant biking community in Ithaca. I'm hopeful that people will learn. I'm an optimist.
Any other questions or comments? Mike Sigler.
No, I just wanted to say the enforcement on the commons has improved dramatically. I mean, I was sitting there today and I saw two police bicycle officers, and they weren't riding their bikes. They were pushing them along. But it was nice to see them, and they kind of just walked through. And then I like seeing the chief of police. I think off duty today, but walking around the commons, just kind of checking things out. I do have a question about Asteri. Clearly still a problem. I know the county is working on it, I think in conjunction with the city. Have the state made any kind of moves? Has the developer made any kind of entree to how to fix some of these problems that you've heard of?
Yeah, I know that those conversations are ongoing. I also know that we haven't really had any, at least since I was updated last, any significant movement from the state. Things could have changed since I last got an update, but.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't have an update either, so that's why I'm asking you. All right, thanks.
Yep.
Anybody else? Rich.
Yeah, I saw a thing on a proposal on just cause termination. What kind of timeline is that? Do you think that's going to get brought forward?
I know that the memo that was brought up, member filed by Kayla Matos, is coming up for discussion, I think next week, not this week at our voting meeting, but at our discussion meeting. If that were to be voted, I think the timeline would be if we voted on that and passed that memo, then it would go to city staff to start looking into as a proposal, which at that point they would begin writing legislation and looking at the way other cities have drafted legislation and such, and then that would come back forward once that is prepared to the city council, but first in a discussion section and then in a voting meeting. So I know that there will be opportunities for public engagement if that moves forward, and I would encourage all those, both for and against, to engage in the process.
I'm guessing later this year, but not like this coming month.
Anybody else? Thank you very much for coming as usual. See you next time.
Of course.
It's time for legislator privilege of the floor. Shauna?
Yeah, I just want to remind everyone that school has started and the school zones and the bus zones are taking in effect. So please slow down. There are a lot of kids that are riding bikes and walking to school, and we want to make sure that they're safe. Whenever buses have their flashing lights on, that cars need to stop well in advance because typically they're waving a student across the street or kids are getting on the bus. Thank you.
Other legislator privilege of the floor. Veronica.
Thank you. I just want to thank all the people who came to speak today, and I'm sorry I was obviously not here, but thanks to our wonderful communication staff, I was listening to everything on my way in. And I appreciate when folks come and essentially tell us about whatever you think we need to know, whether it's on the agenda or not, or whether it's on our radar or not. It doesn't mean, I mean, hope you don't assume, it doesn't mean that we're going to like immediately do what you say if you're asking for a specific thing, but I think that government works better when we have more lines of communication open before the final decision point on a thing. So thank you all. And I heard, I mean, various things, but a theme of that our budget shows our values, which is a thing I've heard many times before, and that we got to be proactively including people with disabilities in everything we do, which is also something that we could do better at, including addiction, including whatever.
Anybody else? Mike Lane. Oh.
It's okay.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, Mike Lane.
Was there someone first?
There was, but go ahead.
But we'll let him go.
Mike Sigler.
Mine's nice and easy. If you're not busy Saturday, please come to Lansing. The Lansing Parade is at 6 o'clock, and it's a lot of fun. You can get some candy, which has actually skyrocketed in price if you're out there shopping. So there's that. And then, of course, there's the Lansing Carnival. Lots of rides, funnel cake, you know, just a good time had I. So please come on out and enjoy Lansing. Maybe stop down at Myers Park and enjoy the town. So thanks so much.
Mike Lane.
Just another example of, Mike, of the wonderful festivals that we have and that our county tries to make available celebration funding for many of these. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, Lee promised us a wonderful festival in Groton. I was able to actually be in the parade, which was, as usual, a wonderful parade, Lee. And what you said was not hyperbole. It was very true. And the people in Groton came out. It was a wonderful night. And I'm wishing Lansing to have just as good weather. I'd also like to mention some things that have been going on nationally that trouble me a lot. Back in the 1920s in Germany, there were paramilitary organizations coming to play. Also in Italy. Italy, they were Mussolini's group was called the Black Shirts. In Germany, they were called, the Nazi group was called the Brown Shirts, or the SA. And these people would initially were just to give the Nazi rallies protection from the communist anti-demonstrators and the socialist anti-demonstrators. But they continued to grow. They fought among themselves. They killed one another. But it grew eventually into the Nazi SS that was so infamous during World War II that was in charge of the mass murders, the mass enslavements, the killing of so many people. Now we have in our country what appears to be an effort to create a military group out of our National Guard, out of our ICE, out of our FBI, that is dedicated to a particular president and his view of the world. We know that for our current president, it's the immigrants who are the scapegoat. And for Nazi Germany, it was the Jews who were the scapegoat. You can't put together a rapid response team of military people to go into the American cities to put down crime, take over Washington, put down crime, evict the homeless because they make the city look untidy. People need to be respected and given due process all of the time. And we don't need to ship our immigrants to Uganda. Think of the history of Uganda over the last 30 years and what kind of dictatorships they had over there. We have no idea what's going on now in that country or in El Salvador. We need to constantly watch what's going on. When Los Angeles says we don't need the National Guard, you ought to pay attention to that. And apparently a judge has agreed with that. I heard very recently that the judge said that the federal law does not permit the president to call up the National Guard for the reason he wanted to do that and did that in Los Angeles, not to mention the calling up of 700 Marines for the same purpose. When they got there, they didn't have anything to do because the Los Angeles police were certainly well-trained and in control. And then we hear, well, maybe we'll go into other cities in the Democratic states where the real crime, the levels of crime, are often in the poor southern states, which probably need help more than Chicago or New York or other cities. It's very, very troubling. We can't have scapegoats. We can't have the constant lying that's coming out of Washington. We need to be proud of our government. And right now, there's very little to be proud of.
Other legislator privilege of the floor. Ann.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank my colleague, Mike Lane, for saying what he said. I always appreciate his words shining a light onto what's happening in our country and reflecting that with history. So I just wanted to add to that specifically who the federal government is going after is brown immigrants. So it's not immigrants from people who, or it's not people who are white, it's brown immigrants that they're targeting right now. Or they're targeting first, I should say. I did not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I usually stand for that, and I never say the part under God because we're not a religious state, and religion does not have to do, as far as I'm concerned, with our government and how we govern our people. But I just want to let folks know that I am very patriotic. Me and I'm sure I can probably speak for most other folks that are not standing. It's not because we're not patriotic. It's because we are patriotic and we care about this country. And I will, again, speak just for myself. I should probably do that, that I pledge to the folks in the county that I will help progress us towards a more just, equitable, and democratic society. And I don't see that reflected at the federal level. They're doing just the opposite, including taking away some rights that were guaranteed in the Constitution. So I just want to let folks know that I am here for them, and I know my colleagues are here, to help them through this. Thank you.
Any other legislator privilege of the floor? Amanda.
I wasn't actually going to say anything, but I don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because I started that years ago when we had yet another school shooting and decided that I cannot pledged my allegiance to a country that chooses guns over children. And I do believe in the Constitution. Obviously, I believe in the New York State Constitution and all the rights and laws that we have created. But we had yet another school shooting just last week, and more children died because people care about their guns, not their children. So that's my reason.
Other legislators, privilege of the floor. Rich.
I do stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I think we live in an imperfect country. You know, as Lincoln talked about it, we're always seeking a more perfect union. I wish my colleagues would stand. I understand the reservations and the complaints about our government. But the message it sends suggests a dissonance between what we do on a daily basis and the oath we took when we assumed office, which are substantially the same words. I think we live in such a troubled time. We need to send a very clear message to everybody that we do stand for our country and we want to fight for it. Thanks.
Deborah.
I haven't stood for the pledge for quite some time. I've discussed this before. We took an oath of office to defend the Constitution. I don't see that my government right now in Washington is doing that. And that same party and administration has made flag pins their icon for their brand of patriotism, which, given their apparent commitment to undermining our constitutional order, is ironic at best. So I don't see any reason that I need to stand and pledge allegiance to a flag that's been perverted, subverted somehow to be a symbol of unraveling our constitutional order. That's all I can say. I love my country. I love my Constitution. I've served my country for over 45 years in various forms. I think I'm the only person on this legislature who served in the military. I don't owe it to anybody to stand and pledge until I see a government in Washington that really does commit itself to truth and justice for everyone here. Thank you.
Other legislators? Okay, thank you, everybody. Chair's report, very brief tonight. We were invited to the 50th anniversary celebration of the Commons this week. We're not going to be able to go because we have a budget meeting at the same time, but I thought it was worth noting that moment in history. That's kind of a big deal in Ithaca history. When that was put in the 70s, it was kind of a trend, and most of those pedestrian malls have reverted back to cars. We're a holdout, so it's just another thing that makes us unique. The other thing I would like to mention is that our History Center is holding a contest that is very interesting and fun and creative. They have hid $10,000 worth of jewels somewhere in Tompkins County, real $10,000 worth of real jewels. And they've got a series of puzzles and clues to help find them. It's a fundraiser for the History Center, and you can still register, I believe, until September 6th. And as an individual or a team, and go search for those jewels. So good luck to whoever gets them. I do have one chair's appointment. This is Michael Ramos, who's being appointed to the Workforce Development Board. Okay, next up is maybe our main event tonight, which is the first presentation of the proposed 2026 budget. Before we go to that actual document and budget itself, I thought maybe we would start with the chair of the Budget Committee. Mike, if you wanted to say anything to kick us off.
Well, we are about to enter into the next phase of our budget, which will be the expanded Budget Committee, the Committee of the Whole. Our first meeting will be on Thursday night at 5 o'clock here, and we will start hearing from all of our departments. Brief, it's the one time when we all get to see all of the departments over several meetings. We now have a recommended budget from county administration, from our new county administrator, Corsa Akumfi. We are excited about having a recommended budget, but we will, as of course we always do, we will discuss it thoroughly and make whatever changes we think should be made to the budget, not because it's not a good budget, but because that's what we do.
Thank you. So our County Administrator, Corsa Akumfi, is joining us by Zoom tonight to present the budget. Welcome, Corsa.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for the opportunity to go through the budget process today. In the middle of a few things that I'm dealing with, so I will invite our Deputy Norma to go through the presentation. And thank you all for your patience, and I will look forward to discussing the details with you and also making informed decisions for and on behalf of the people of Tompkins County. So, Norma, if you can proceed from here.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And Corso put together a great set of notes that I can kind of work from on his behalf this evening, so bear with me on this. I just wanted to say, first of all, I think all of you have received your books. They should either be on your desk or you've taken them home or something. Those of you who've asked for them, otherwise it's available to you electronically on the county's website under County Administration. The calendar for the departments expanded budget will be coming out shortly. If you haven't received a copy of it yet, we'll send that to you by email along with a copy of the presentation from this evening. So, and I wanted to just start this by saying thank you to the departments and the agencies for the help that they gave us as we put this budget together. It was we sat with many people. Our finance director went through capital programs with us. It was a really collaborative effort among the departments. So the key message is, despite our challenging economic conditions, we're proposing a responsible budget that exceeds the tax cap but addresses critical needs. So tonight I'm going to present the County Administrator's budget that reflects both the fiscal discipline and community necessity, while we're recommending a 4.5% tax levy increase above our tax cap. Let me put into perspective immediately for the owner of our county's median home, the median priced home, which is $300,000. This translates to an additional $37 per year. That's about 10 cents a day for essential services, emergency response, and strategic investments in our future. So the key points here, our total operating budget is $240 million. Our property tax levy, as presented in your budget, is $57 million, which is a 4.5% tax levy increase. Our, like I said, our median homeowner home is about $300,000, which is just $37 more annually. Our tax rate would be $4.92, which is a 2.57% increase, about 12 cents increase over last year. And the solid waste fee is recommended to be increased from $82 to $85 this year. Our capital investments are at $7.7 million in local share. So our major budget drivers, of course, is the economy, our mandates and our emergency shelter, labor costs, fund balance, and reserve. Before we dive into the details, let me show you the economic landscape that shapes every decision in this budget. So, rising demand for services reflects the ongoing economic pressures on our residents. The numbers on this slide tell a story of resilience and struggle in our community. Since 2021,
SNAP enrollment has climbed 21%. That's over 800 additional households now relying on food assistance. These are statistics. These are not our statistics. There are neighbors, there are families, and someone who might be working but still can't make ends meet on a $2,510 a month for a single person or $5,200 for a family of 4. Our transition to our safety net and net caseloads, you can see that those have increased over, I'm sorry, I skipped over the temporary assistance.
We've got time.
You can see that those, there's not a big change between 21 and 25, but in this case, we have 100% New York State funded with no local cost for these 5-year lifetime benefits. Safety net, you see a 7% increase since last June, and 71% of our total cost is borne by the county taxpayers. What's particularly concerning is our safety net caseload, the program for those who've exhausted other benefits. That 7% jump represents real financial pressure on our budget since we fund 71% of that cost.
Norma, when you say last June, is that a year ago June or?
A year ago, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Norma, could you also remind, I guess, everyone watching what safety net is compared to TANF? Like my understanding is that people can get safety net assistance after their 5 years.
After they've run out of all of their other benefits. Sorry, thank you for that. So our inflation rates, while that's been moderate, it remains above the historic norms and affects both our county operations and residents. So now that we've had our inflation is about 2.7%, but that's still above the Federal Reserve, which is 2%. And it masked some painful spikes. Used car prices jumped nearly 5% this year. When our constituents are stretching dollars to fix their cars, heat their homes, natural gas is nearly 14%. Or find housing with shelter that's cost climbed 3.7%, and 2.7% average feels much higher. Consumer confidence has fallen since it shows that people are feeling less secure about their financial future, which affects everything from local spending to their willingness to support public investments. You can see that month over month, our consumer price index increased slightly, but our continued inflation is growing faster. And the stock market, the industrial average is up 4% over last year. The monthly unemployment rates have gone, we're doing better than some of our neighbors or the rest of the state. Our local job market remains remarkably strong at about 3.6% unemployment. We're outperforming both the southern tier and New York State, but let's not get complacent. We're seeing a tale of two economies. Healthcare, construction, and services are adding jobs while tech and manufacturing are shredding them. The workers affected aren't just statistics, they're skilled professionals whose spending power affects our entire local economy. So mandates, last year we dealt with the EF-MAP intercept in 2025. This year we're seeing about a $168,000 increase and a nearly $2 million shift to the county since our EF-MAP intercept, which is about 3.5% of our local property tax levy. And then childcare is the increases in eligibility and provider rate increases have increased our budget by $265,000 in 2026. Along with the other state mandates and cost pressures, our assigned counsel fees have gone up about $172,000. Economic securities are up $1.4 million. That's daycare has had a significant increase this year, and our safety net as well. So as we know, our shelter needs, our emergency shelter needs are facing serious demand. We're in the perfect storm. We reduced state treatment facilities, fewer community partners willing to take on a liability of risks. Increased need has pushed us to the breaking point. We're not just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet. We're talking about people sleeping outside in Tompkins County winters. Our response will require a new, larger emergency shelter and potentially a lower barrier model that meets people where they are, not where they wish they were. Another pressure on our budget was our labor and fringe costs. Our fringe benefits have gone up $1.1 million in 2026. The health consortium rate hike is 18%, or is estimated to be 18%, and our national drivers are this has been a trend nationally, not just locally. And our pension costs are expected to, well, in this budget, we're assuming about 3%. Also in the budget, as we've done in the last couple of years, we're assuming a vacancy factor of about $1.9 million. So for our general revenue, of course, our largest source of revenue other than property taxes or sales tax. We've seen an increase, and I think Daryl's going to probably go over this in a little while, of for 2025, we've seen about 7% over 2024, but that hasn't been the trend. That wasn't the trend last year. We saw just a little bit over the 2023 sales tax. So this year, we are estimating $44.1 million, which is about a 6% increase over last year. We also have short-term rental projections we're using this year in the budget at $1.1 million to support airport operations. There is a estimate that it could be as high as 1.3 million. Right now we have 1.1 in the budget to support those airport operations. And you can see that the 23 and 24 figures did come in just about flat over last year. Oh, I mean 23 to 24, excuse me. But then as you see the second quarter sales tax, 24 to 25, you can see there's been 7% growth in those figures. This was, I think, the last presentation that you made, not this current one. And other revenues, the casino revenues are going to remain flat in this budget, in this recommended budget. The interest income has been coming in higher than estimated last year, so this budget presents a $3.2 million budget, or about $900,000 over the estimates for 2025. And then again, as I said earlier, the recycling and materials management solid waste annual fee is up about $3, or that's the recommendation. Our capital investments, previously we've used fund balance to support our capital investments, and as well as tax levy. As we've had to, we used ARPA for those years that were available, and of course ARPA had to be expended, or at least planned for, committed, thank you, to at the end of 2024. So this year, our approach has been to fund the full cost of capital either through cash or debt service. In the capital projects for 2026, there's various airport projects that are in this budget. The center of government, of course, continues to be supported for the next few years with reserves, but will eventually be added to our debt service in 2029. Facilities restoration is covered partially in the budget. There was a request for $1.4 million. We've covered about $700,000 for facilities restoration. Our bridge projects are continue to be funded through some set-asides, some reserves that we've set aside for those projects. Highway maintenance will be bonded for 2026. ITS infrastructure and maintenance has been fully funded as recommended by our ITS department. Fleet and green fleet management has been partially funded. We were unable to fully support the request for that budget. The funding for debt service, of course, is in the budget as a part of our tax levy, and the highway equipment replacement will be, is anticipated to be bonded within this plan. The highway equipment was not replaced last year at all, so those, there's a bit of a makeup for 2026 to support the highway equipment replacement. But, and then the recycling waste management infrastructure upgrades that are covered under their enterprise funds. The fund balance, we've had I do want to refer back to Force's notes on this, so I don't want to miss anything that he's had to say. So the fund balance is below target, requires careful management and to rebuild a strategy. So let's be transparent about our fiscal challenge. Our fund balance policy calls for reserves equal to 25% of expenditures. That's $56 million. We're currently at $44.2 million, creating an $11.9 million shortfall. How do we get here? Conservative budgeting, workforce shortages that reduced payroll costs, and strong sales tax growth historically built our reserves. But in 2023 alone, we used $10.7 million in fund balance to keep our taxes lower and fund critical initiatives. We went from a $72 million in reserves in 2022 to $60.9 million in 2023. So our current debt service reserve is $5.7 million, which is has lowered our tax levy by about $1.3 million, or a 2.4% decrease. That was an action that was taken, I think, at the end of 2023. We took those funds and set them aside to pay for some short-term, about 5-year balances. Our over-target requests were $4.7 million, one-time and multi-year. Our tax stabilization, that was to reduce our tax levy in that year to a 2% increase, was $283,000. So our total 2023 fund balance use was 10.7. And this is just a chart showing where we are now. At 2024, we had $224.3 million in total expenditures. This shows our 25% target fund balance at $56.07 million and our unassigned fund balance at $44.17, leaving us a deficit, or below, not a deficit, an unassigned fund balance that's below our target. So the considerations for a policy is to create to not increase any, add any unfunded or unsupported increases to the 2026 budget. So our key considerations, well, we did look at our requests based on the strategic plan, and to reiterate, our priorities are organizational excellence, equitable service delivery, health and safety, climate change mitigation and resiliency, and economic opportunity and quality of life.
So Norma.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just want to confirm, I heard that there was a recommendation for us not to add any over target requests, but this is just a proposed budget from the county administrator. And so at the end of the day, it's up to the 14 of us. We can add things, we could take away. I mean, at some point, we just have to balance a budget.
Yeah, and what I said was unsupported. So, you know, if you decide that you want to spend the fund balance, I mean, that's just to keep in mind that every time we spend more of the fund balance, it's harder to put that back in. But certainly to increase, you can certainly add items and increase the tax levy.
But we can also take away things that are
And you can
recommended.
also take away things that, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for that question. In the requests for 2026, we had $9.4 million in maintenance of effort requests. The enhancements were $6 million, and one-time requests were at $1.2 million. So what's supported in this budget? We supported the reimagining public safety with the Community Justice Center, the sheriff's clerks, and the care teams are included in this budget. The rapid medical response as it is today, not the expanded response team. The countywide security, day reporting, a contingent fund that's been increased to $3 million to address any shortfalls, the unknowns that we are expecting to come to us from the federal changes. Maintenance of effort, contract expenses are included in this budget. The DSS respite bed and the early intervention support. And I just wanted to go back to the maintenance of effort because it is a different model than what you've experienced before. Oftentimes when we had a maintenance of effort request, we had the departments come in and ask for an over target request to cover things like a contractual, an expense that cannot be changed. It's a contractual expense. We have to spend it. For example, we have increased costs for our software that runs the county operations. Those were built into the budget rather than expecting the departments to come back and ask for an over target request.
Norma, what's a DSS respite bed?
It was an over target request that was covered last year as a multi-year funded support for emergency.
For youth.
Thank you.
It's the youth bed for when there's not a location. We essentially have to pay to hold one open for reserve, and then that bed, the individual can be placed in that bed. But we essentially have to have the bed all the time, and that's what that fee for this is asking for, is my understanding from last year.
No,
Is that not?
I don't think
respite bed?
I don't think
actually not.
No, that's specialized secure detention.
Yeah.
You can
That's
reserve a bed
raise
for
the age
that,
of-
but we didn't do it, I don't believe.
I don't know what that is.
It was approved last,
If we don't have the information now, we will get it.
that would be, yes, I can get that to you because I really don't want to
thank
give
you.
you the wrong information. Yeah. I will say though that it's been an over target request that had been multi-year funded, and this year it was due to expire, so it was brought into the budget.
So this is a multi-year OTR that's now become target?
That is now part of the budget. Yep.
Okay.
So balancing the budget, we had to make some reductions and unfund some items. There were several unfunded enhancement requests and new position requests. We made adjustments, reductions to some agencies, Cooperative Extension, Human Services Coalition agencies, Tompkins Community Action, and Soil and Water Conservation, as well as utilized fund balance from Workforce Development's CD fund to cover their local share. And then we made several county department line item adjustments. This is just a quick overview of the expenditures used for ARPA. These have all been committed for by the end of 2024, but we used 8.8 million toward capital projects, 6.4 toward the Community Recovery Fund, and 4.6 for one-time OTRs between 2022 and 2024. So 2026 risks and opportunities. The Ithaca Airport, we were realizing that there's some, we need to look at the sustainable growth and economic revitalization for the airport. So the Ithaca Regional Airport isn't just a transportation infrastructure, it's an economic development infrastructure. We're proposing a 3-year, $1.97 million investment that leverages new revenue streams. The short-term rental market in our county generated over $32 million in revenue last year. Our sales tax on these rentals, combined with enhanced room occupancy taxes and a modest property tax contribution, will stabilize the Ithaca operations, ITH operations, reduce costs for passengers, and help us compete with regional airports for airline service. The plan includes $1.1 million in short-term rental sales tax, $500,000 in room tax, $371,000 in property tax levy to bring us to $1.97 million. And we're looking at this as a 3-year commitment. This will be used to stabilize the operations, reduce our fees, incentivize the airlines to add and retain routes and increase competitiveness versus our nearby airports. And we are in a position where it's hard to compete with the regional airlines in our area due to the fact that they have support from municipal or from their tax levy to help them reduce their fees.
Norma, just a clarifying question. Is this 1.97 broken up over 3 years, or is this per year?
Per year.
Per year for 3 years?
Yes.
1.97 each year. Thank you.
Our other policy considerations, just working through the TCAT. We're enhancing our TCAT partnership and taking greater responsibility for oversight of the federal and state transit funding. So new grant funding policy will prevent our budget amendments until grants are formally executed, and protecting county taxpayers from potential financial exposure if grants fall through. So these are just 2 other policy considerations.
I'm sorry, the no budget amendments until grants are formally executed, meaning no activity would take place.
That's right, not adding them directly, not adding any expenditures to the budgets. So what right now, oftentimes what will happen is we'll authorize expenditures before the money actually comes in. The recommendation is to wait until we have a formal executed contract to receive those funds. While we may still be waiting for those funds to come in, we have an executed contract to receive those funds.
Because most of them are reimbursements, they're not money up front.
Correct. We're not, right. We have to request reimbursements for those funds. And just finally, the tax cap. So our estimated tax cap is 2.7%, which would increase our tax levy by about 1.5 million. And the inflationary factor is 2%. So this wasn't our first choice, but it's, let's examine why this is our responsible choice. State mandates, costs imposed by Albany, account for nearly half of this increase. The emergency shelter crisis demands immediate response. Our critical infrastructure needs can't wait, and our strategic airport investment positions us for a long-term economic competitiveness. For the median homeowner, we're talking about $37 per year, about $1 a week. To address humanitarian crisis, maintain infrastructure, and invest in our economic future. So just in closing, this budget reflects the reality that sometimes responsible governance requires difficult decisions.
Thank you, Norma.
You're welcome.
So we're going to have questions and comments, but remember that we're not passing a budget tonight. We have 10 budget meetings scheduled, including all the forums and public hearings. So this is just kind of overview, broad questions. Mike Lane.
I just want to say nice job, Norma. It's not easy to step in. I know Corsa would have been here if he could for the full presentation, but circumstances didn't allow that. But you did a great job.
Thank you, Michael.
Mike Sigler.
I was just wondering, Norma, if we do go over the tax cap, the state tax cap, it's been a long time since we kind of covered that. What happens? Is there a penalty from the state? I mean, what?
Well, you've passed a resolution that allows you to go over the cap. So
right. That allows us to, but the state has set the cap. There's no nothing happens to us.
Is it a raise the age problem?
Yeah, it's a raise the age issue. So we will have to go through and explain why we went over the cap, and so there'll be some additional work after the fact.
Okay.
Rich.
I wanted to echo Mike in saying thank you for the work, and just for the public, we start working on the budget in the spring. We have an initial meeting where we try to figure direction. And then the staff works for a very long time. County administration works with each of the departments and the agencies we fund over the spring to the summer to get to today. And I just note that I was reading about the federal government and how the present administration is not producing a budget. They've set up some budget priorities in the spring, just in general terms. But the director of the Office of Management and Budget said, well, it's not really in our interest to be transparent and share the information. So the federal government is really going in another direction from what we do here in Tompkins County, and I'm really proud of the process. It's a very painful process for us, by the way. We'll be here for the next several months doing this, but our budget is right here on paper. It is on our website. We will be talking about it in public session at great length, at meeting after meeting, because this is one of the most important things we do, and I think it's a good example for our federal government, what we're doing locally. And this is the right way to do it. And so thank you for getting us started, Norma and Corsa and everybody in county staff that's worked on this.
Randy.
Yeah, thank you for all the work on this, administration, Corsa, and for putting everything electronically on the web for everybody to see, and it's very transparent. I think that's great. This is my fourth year doing this budget stuff, and I'm a slow learner. But one thing I have learned is from looking at the various budgets we've done and the audits, is that we don't have a good grip on our income. And so I'm going to ask that every department that comes here that presents to us shares with us if they have outside income, what their income projection was for 2024, how much they actually got, how much their income projection for 2025 was, and where they are now. Do they expect it to be equal to what they budgeted for 2025, and to answer those same questions for 2026 for income. We were $8 million short in income, if memory serves, from our audit, and we are $2 million over in spending. So that's, I would like each department that comes that they're prepared for that. And the other thing I noticed in going through the budget is just in payroll and benefits, our budget's going up $6 million in 2026. So that, and I realize that in this budget, I think that 12 positions are not being added, or I'm not through attrition or how that's being done. But if we continue to grow our government like this, we're going to continue to have this problem. And the other thing, and thank you, Norma, for giving me all this great data on capital budget. Our capital budget is going to be $7,600,000 in 2026, climbing to $12,259,000, which is over it's over $4 million. That's going to come from our tax levy, which is going to be how much percentage increases that. So I think that we've got a lot of challenges here, and I'm worried about, and that number stays high like that forever after that, from 7 million to 12 and up for years to come.
Amanda.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and all the good work. My question, I'm not sure if I misunderstood, but so are there over target requests, or you guys are calling them enhancements now? Are there those that departments are coming forward to us with?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for that question, because I realized that yeah, so what's a little bit different, and probably why your budget book is not as thick this year, because we've incorporated the enhancements and the maintenance of efforts requests directly in the line item budget, but they're listed in each of the proposal pages, what has been requested for enhancements.
And my understanding,
hang on. So are we going to have like a chart like we've had in the past that kind of separately pulls those out?
Yeah,
okay.
oops, I didn't mean to stop sharing. I was going to, yeah, we will, yes, we're going to have a spreadsheet for you as well so that you can see those broken out. But they're on each page in detail, explaining what those requests are.
Great, thank you.
Deborah.
so my understanding from the budget retreat was that we weren't funding anything out of fund balance because we didn't have fund balance to use. So the enhancements are now part of the operating budget?
The enhancements right now are part of the operating budget, but they are called out as, and the reality is there is a $2.7 million fund, I mean, there is some fund balance assumed in this budget too.
So we're reducing it even further?
Yes.
Thank you.
Greg.
What was the amount that we put in reserves, those specific reserve accounts? What's the term that we use for those?
Reserve accounts.
Reserve accounts, right?
Right, like the 11 million for.
It was 11 million.
It was 11 million for capital.
For capital.
And we've used part of that to support the center of government, as well as, I think it was $2 million, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Daryl, for the public safety building, for the schematic design and such for the public safety building.
And then we had like a self-insurance reserve.
That's correct.
Some other things. How much did that add up to?
I want to say it was around $1.2 million.
No, like total, the reserves that we pulled out of fund balance.
The total reserves pulled, I think it was, I wasn't anticipating this. I will send you the exact numbers. I want to say it was somewhere around $15 million.
And you said our shortfall in our fund balance was how much?
11.
11? Mm-hmm. Some of this is a little self-created because we just moved money into one account from another?
Some of it could be considered to be due to the fact that he's going to say something, though, so I'm going to let him.
Okay, because I'm just wondering if, when we say there's a deficit, yes, there is a deficit, but we also made a legislative decision to take 15 million and park it from unrestricted to heavily restricted reserve accounts, for purposes to use in the future. So it's not like we're out that money, it's just in a different account set aside for a specific purpose. Because I think it's a little misleading when we say there's a deficit, which there is, but we also created that deficit through legislative action, putting money in reserve accounts.
That does make part of it. However, I don't have the figures right in front of me. At the end of 2024, we did come to a shortfall, some due to DSS coming in lower than expected. Our sales tax came below the budget, if I'm not mistaken, and we also budgeted to use fund balance at the same time during the 2024 budget. So yes, some of it is moving funds from, some of it is moving money across funds to fund those reserves. However, if I'm not mistaken, our overall whole county was still in a deficit of around 8 or 10 million if you add all the funds together countywide.
If you add all the funds together, which would be like revenue funds or just reserve funds?
So if you look at the A fund, the general fund, which funds all the other funds, it tends to be larger of a deficit, especially if you transfer funds to the other funds. But when you add them as a county-wide, then it includes, we back out the expenses in the revenues between the funds because otherwise you'd be double recording them.
Okay, so if we were to reverse our action that we made for those reserve funds and put it back into the general unrestricted fund balance, would we not be at our policy?
We'd just still be slightly below.
Okay, but not 11 million.
Would not be 11 million.
Okay, so there's some detail in the story that we got to make sure we get out there.
Sure.
Of course.
But aren't you going to have some obligations to pay as well?
Yes.
Shauna.
Whenever I look at the budget book, I find it much more confusing than years past because we aren't able to clearly see what has been taken away from departments or nonprofits or the Human Services Coalition recommendations. And so what I would ask as we're moving forward is that we actually have those line items of what's been taken away because we don't know what we don't know, right? And so, I mean, I think Amanda had mentioned that like translation services is not in our budget book, or there was some line item that was not in our budget book. And it would be a shame for things to not be in our budget and for us not to even know what that it wasn't recommended. You know, I think we need a list of the ins and outs and what was truly recommended, because if it's not, the only thing that seems to be in our budget book are the things that are recommended. It's not from years past. Whenever I look at Human Services Coalition, there's not a list of, I did not see that there's a list of recommendations for the organizations that they're recommending.
There's no basis for comparison, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the other thing that I know we've kind of gone back and forth over the past few years is that what's really helpful for us as we're working through the budget is for us to see a spreadsheet on the screen, and then whenever we're making decisions, see that number go up and down so that we could see the tax levy, see it go up and down.
That's in the plan. Yeah,
okay.
we'll have that.
That's great.
Yep. But I just wanted to I just pulled up one of the budget pages, but so what we've done is we've showed under the county administrator recommended what has been supported and what's been reduced for each department on the first page of every budget. It shows what's been requested, what's been recommended and what hasn't been recommended. In this case, we didn't, there weren't recommendations for these, but.
Norma, the Human Service Coalition one is probably a really good example because it shows quite a bit and it's specific to your question, Shauna. Under agencies.
I think it shows like their operating costs, but it does not show, I did not see the specific agencies.
This is the council, sorry.
And you don't have to answer today, Norma. It might be
that's
something
okay.
you
I just
look into.
wanted, I thought maybe this would be helpful for the group to see. So the enhancements are here on the first page, and then as we go down through, you'll see where the county administrator's recommendation where what was unable to be supported and what has been reduced is all listed under the county administrator's recommendation on the page.
You're on page 348.
I just pulled it up on the website.
Oh.
I don't have the 348.
Also, I'd mention at the beginning of our budget book is a 14-page message from the county administrator, and there is some wording in there about some of the programs that are being reduced. It's not comprehensive, but there's a little bit there. Corsa.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that the way we approach, for example, the Human Service Coalition is look at the totality of the amount given to them and then taking away a portion of that amount and then asking them to reallocate to the agencies. So when you're looking at dealing with the specifics of the Human Service Coalition, you will be provided with a list of agencies they are recommending supporting with the funding that we have approved, and also they will then be asking for the additional support to augment what has been taken away. So from my understanding from the team, that list will be provided to all of you during the individual deliberations on how they are projecting to allocate the allocations that we have given, we have proposed to be given to them.
Other questions, comments? Amanda?
I know we're not really getting into the fine details here tonight. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to be here on Thursday. But is the Chief Equity and Diversity Officer position still? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and so is Human Rights.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah?
Yeah, I would caution everyone that we are anticipating a substantial increase in TCAT's ask, which is not included in this budget at all.
Other questions or comments? Lee?
Just a comment for Corsa and Norma. You've given us a starting point, and just going back to the two budget retreats, and I think it was probably a challenge for you to assimilate all the opinions and the range of percentages that the legislators offered. But I do want to congratulate you on coming in at a starting point that appears to meld all those together. We got a lot of work to do, but you've given us a solid proposal and a lot to consider. So thank you for the work.
Thanks, Lee.
Anybody else? Okay, that's a great way to end it. It's our starting point, and thank you for launching us, Norma and Corsa and everybody else. Okay, we are now moving on to reports. Is there a report from the county administrator?
I have no further report.
Okay. All right, next up is County Attorney Maury Josephson.
Good evening. I will reserve my report and commentary for the executive session. Otherwise, if there are any questions, I can answer those now or at your convenience.
Questions or comments for the county administrator? Okay. Next up, Director of Finance, Darrell Tuttle.
Good evening, everyone. Give me a minute while I share my screen. I'm going to start off my report with the July 2025 sales tax. So the total sales tax collected in July comes to $7 million, which is about 6.31% increase over July from 2024. The county share kind of mimics that with an increase of 6.31% as well, which comes up to $3.9 million. The towns and villages had a small increase this month of only 0.17%. At 1.6 million, and the city of Ithaca had the largest increase overall with 13.97%, coming to 1.4 million in the month of July. Just as a year to date for the overall sales tax, the increase is for all sales tax is 6.86% from year-to-date to July compared to last year. Now, we budgeted in 2025 43.2 million, and we are at 57.05% of that budget. And all this that I just went over is on page 5 of our packet. So it appears we're a little below track, but I think because we just made a payment to the city of their sales tax, that's why it dipped a little. Otherwise, if you take 7 months out of 12, it should be 58%, so we're on track. The next page is just a graph showing that compared to the previous years, we are above, and then it outlines from 2022, all the months, to 2025. Any questions?
Questions or comments for the Finance Director? Randy?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the report, and thank you for all the data. Maybe too much data, so I don't understand it. So looking at the county share for 2025 compared to 2024, and that's about 1.7 million more than last year at this time. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, but don't we give, so I'm confused in the budget. Don't we take money out of sales tax and allocate it $1 million or something to Human Service Coalition, or how does that, isn't there money taken out of sales tax that is allocated to something else?
Yes. If you look at the bottom of that page where it says gross sales tax revenue at the bottom left, that would be the number before taking out the amount that we allocate. And then if you go to the right side of that bottom portion of the county budget comparison, the unallocated sales tax revenue on the right, the 24.6 million, that's with that piece taken out.
And
So
where
that's
does
what we
that,
get to keep.
Yes.
and where does that go to TCAP? Where does that money go? Where is it allocated for specifically, the money we're pulling out?
The sales
can get
tax
back to
agreement.
It's all per the sales tax agreement. I don't remember, and I can bring it up if you would like, unless Norma can speak on it off the top of her head. I know part of it is TCAT, and there's youth programs, and there's the city. Do you know? Norma?
Dispatch center.
Dispatch center.
The library, there's youth programs. And then a large portion, about 483,000 or so, goes to the Human Services Coalition agencies.
Okay, maybe a breakdown of that would be helpful. So the, in looking at the, under the graph, and I'm looking at the various years and the money coming in, so are all these columns here from 23, 24, and now this column 25, those are the gross before any money is taken out, correct?
I believe so, but I'd have to check to make sure.
Make sure I'm comparing apples to apples. I'm just trying to make sure.
I believe it is, but I can verify to make sure.
Okay. All right, I'm going to want to, I'll challenge our predictions for sales tax at a later date.
Mike Sigler.
I don't know if you're able to answer this. The increase in sales tax money, is there a way to tell if it's because of increased sales or just increased prices?
Good question.
Like electricity rates are up through the roof, so, well, our tax rate's then going to go up commensurate with that.
I can look into it and get a better answer for you.
I don't know if that's-
I don't know off the top of my head, but I'd prefer if given the opportunity to research and before giving an answer.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I don't even know if it's possible to do that, so.
I know what we've always assumed is if your increase is not over what inflation is, then you're kind of in a deficit because inflation increases the cost of the item, so automatically your sales tax should go up by that.
Right, that makes sense. Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Darrell? Okay, thank you.
I do have a few other items.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. There was some questions regarding the library engagement last meeting. I did reach out to Insero. They have a few more contacts to reach out to and should be able to put something together shortly afterwards, so I'll keep you guys updated. I'm hoping by next meeting, but if not that, it should be shortly after. There was also requests to have an updated electronic file of our financial reports. because we're so close to having a final copy, rather than updating the draft, and Cyril's going to give me the final copy, which we're only waiting on one more piece, so we should see shortly. Overall, coming up to September 9th will be September 7th will be my 2 months in this role. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity, and everyone's been awesome, and including my staff, they've been fantastic as I transition and as we move forward.
Thank you.
I have nothing else to report, but I am here for questions.
Any last questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. We are up to the consent agenda. No, we are up to resolutions to be added to or withdrawn from the agenda. Are there any? No. So we are up to the consent agenda. Let's see, we have one advisory board appointment. This is Jacob Parker Carver to the Community Services Board. And then the following resolutions, and if you want any of them pulled from the agenda, just say so as I read them. Resolution A, authorize...
Remove A, please.
Okay. A is pulled. Resolution B, authorization for the Tompkins County Highway Department to enter into a multi-year agreement with Vestis for first aid kit supplies and restocking services, ID number 13497. Resolution C, budget adjustment, Department of Social Services, Adoption and Legal Guardianship Incentive Funds, ID number 13414. Resolution D.
Pull.
Thank you. Resolution E, budget adjustment, Office for the Aging, funding extension to unmet needs, ID number 13483. Resolution F, authorization of use of space lease agreement with College Initiative Upstate for space within the Tompkins County Probation and Community Justice Office, ID number 13446. And Resolution G, authorization to accept fiscal year 2022 Technical Rescue and Urban Search and Rescue Grant, Department of Emergency Response, ID number 13503. Can somebody move the consent agenda, please? Lee moves, Travis seconds. Let's have a vote. All in favor of the consent agenda? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. All right, we are up to standing and special committees reports. Before we dive into that, I wanted to see, is there anyone waiting for any of the resolutions that are coming later, like Resolution H, the hotel occupancy tax? How about the ones that were pulled? Is anyone waiting for?
Roxanne is on for the airport.
And that is Resolution A, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so if there's no objection, why don't we do Resolution A first? Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. Lee?
We'll move Resolution A, authorizing acceptance of a New York State Department of Transportation grant, Air New York funding for geothermal heating and cooling, aircraft rescue, firefighting, snow removal equipment, RFSRE building at the Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID number 13479.
Thank you. It's seconded by Greg. I think, Randy, you pulled it?
I did. So this went through Facilities Infrastructure Committee. And I think it's great that they got this grant to do the geothermal. That's quite a bit of money. But part of this, the $336,000 is local funds of this. And it says airport fund balance and sale of land to New York State DOT. I would like to know what the fund balance is for the airport when they give their presentation. So that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Mike Lane.
Yeah, this is a big deal, this grant, and it's indicative of the kind of grants that the projects at the airport get from FAA and from New York State DOT. And usually our local share is rather small compared to those. And I just think it's important to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Roxanne, I see you on the line. Did you want to say anything, or?
If there's no questions, I'm good. But yeah, so this, I know we did this to, just help, continue with the policies of the legislature for the geothermal. We were happy to get this grant, because if not, it would have been a larger portion that the FAA would not cover. And because of the gas moratorium and everything here, and geothermal does work. We have it in the new terminal expansion, so just a positive there. And Randy, great question. I also took notes on your other things you're looking for in the presentations, and we'll be happy to provide all that information as well.
Great. Thank you, Roxanne.
Any other discussion? Thank you. Any other discussion? Resolution A. Ready for a vote then? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Greg.
All right, I did have one question on this. Was this type of project part of a green capital program at some point? Would this have been the type of project in that or no?
This one was not particularly in the green program, but because of the project, it was incorporated. They were looking to put the geothermal into this.
However, let me just comment though, given that we were looking to do geothermal with the Emergency Response Center, which has been deferred, I will say that it is a positive in that complex we are able to achieve some unanticipated changes along that lines with the green facilities.
I only highlight that because we have received community feedback and the reduction and sort of the pause or slowdown that we've had on our green capital program, that this is a helpful in telling the story of we're finding other ways of funds to continue with green infrastructure and green capital projects.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go back to the Mike Lane.
Just a quickie and just say that our airport is the first green airport in the country, and we continue to move forward with those kinds of green projects at the airport, and this is one of them.
Okay, going to go back to the regular order now. Standing and special committees. First up is Community Recovery Fund Advisory Committee. There is one applicant has requested a modification of their contract, but the background material hasn't quite come through yet, so you will be seeing something about this coming down the line soon. Next up, Downtown Facilities Special Committee, Randy Brown, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. We had a meeting this morning. It went for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And we had a lot of discussion about deconstruction. That process is still inching along. We're going to document a lot of things. A lot of steps are happening. And the buildings, first would be the Key Bank building would be taken down, and then the professional building, and then the last building would be the Assessment and Board of Elections building. But we're months away from that. There are some things we have to do with asbestos on the Annex C building. We did get a long report from Holt, and they went through designs of the building floor by floor. And Jordan is going to get the copy of that presentation and circulate it to everyone. And it was really interesting, some good designs, I think. 51,000 square feet is where it ended up at this point. And there's a lot of color coding and whatnot, and there'll be designs coming your way to look at for that. We also had Terry Carroll has been doing a lot of work on geothermal for this area. And the plan was to do a kind of a big area, including the churches around it for geothermal. And there's some restrictions and complications of how deep you can go with wells, and you can't really go over 200 feet wells in this area because of the geology of everything. So that reduces what we can do. But there's been some good things with that. We're doing a lot of research, and we got a grant from the Park Foundation and then from New York State to pay for all the costs so far of the research. So there's been no cost to the county for that. But that's moving forward, and the goal is to, at this point, to be able to heat and cool this building, the old jail, and the new building, but not the courthouse, just because we don't have enough land for that. So that's the plan right now. They've applied for grants. So all that process is going along. I think that's about it. Anybody else have anything to add that was at the meeting, or?
Okay, questions or comments for Downtown Facilities Committee? Ann?
Yeah, just really want to just second what Randy said, and then the presentation, when you get it, please look at it. They tried to incorporate as much as possible all the recommendations and concerns that the communities had, legislators, the Planning Advisory Board. So please take a look at that, including there's, towards the end of it, there's an example of what the building could look like. So please give us your feedback now so we can keep things moving along. And yeah, I was happy to hear, although there's going to be some restrictions on doing a district geothermal, which would maybe have included most of the buildings on this block. At least it looks like we would be able to do these 3 buildings, the center of government and here and next door. So it's not great news, but it's at least we can do geothermal, hopefully, for those 3 buildings.
I'd like to add too that those other buildings, their heating and cooling systems are on short-lived life as well. I think there's less than 4 or 5 years before they need to be replaced anyway, so the timing is kind of good for this, hopefully.
Any other questions or comments? Downtown Facilities Special Committee, Mike Lane.
One comment I made this morning, I'll make it again here now, is that there was a recent news article about our center of government building, which I think had some inaccuracies. It was talking about what a huge building this was going to be and how it was taking up a huge portion of this block. Both are inaccurate. It takes just a section of the block, which is already being occupied by 3 buildings now, just replacing them. And the scale of the building is certainly not out of scale to other buildings, considering, for example, 200 East Buffalo Street across the street. It will be a good building. It's a 4-story building, but then again, the main courthouse is tall. So I just think that when folks read that article, they should be a little skeptical about the way it was written as to making it look like a larger project than it is.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. We're going to try to squeeze in 2 resolutions before the break because there are staff waiting, it turns out. So next up, from the Health and Human Services Committee, we're going to go to Resolution D.
Resolution D, Budget Adjustment, Whole Health Department, Opioid Settlement, Funds ID 13481, passed unanimously in the Health and Human Service Committee, and it was pulled.
Shauna seconds. Deborah.
Yeah, I pulled it. And the reason I pulled it was simply because I would like to get a better idea of how many people are being helped by this project this year. It says in the resolution, last year they helped 10 clients over 8 months. This year, the total for the project is going to be $366,504. And I was just wondering how many people we were helping for that amount of money.
I will say we have our health commissioner here. If she wants to address that, or Travis, I don't know if you wanted to address it.
I don't remember the exact number, so it would be good.
Well, yeah, there's Jenny Sutcliffe. Maybe she can.
Yeah. Hi, folks. I am learning for the first time that my department laptop camera doesn't seem to be working, so I apologize for that. So, a couple of things regarding these funds. So a few things I wanted to highlight. The first is that the origin of these funds are not actually county dollars. These are not funds that are part of the County Opioid Settlement Fund. This is a program that's funded by the local government unit that also includes a small portion of funding from the city. They really liked this program and wanted to contribute some of their opioid settlement funding to it. So the reason that this has also landed in front of you all is because because the county had to vote to accept the City of Ithaca funds to be a part of this program under the oversight of the county health department. And then, regarding the number of people served, so this is actually a program that provides incredibly intensive support services for individuals who are experiencing homelessness and substance use and often co-occurring mental illness. So what we mean in this case when we talk about intensive, it means that we are providing housing, peer support, wraparound case management services, and residential support staff who reside at the buildings where individuals are being housed. And these are often clients who are coming into the program that have been rejected from other programs because of their really high needs and their history of housing issues. Either they've had property destruction or involvement in the criminal justice system and haven't been able to find alternative housing. And so, in order for this program to be successful, it's also really long term. So the reason that the number is only 10, and that was just for a short window, actually, over the past, since the start of the program, they've served 28 clients. And the reason that number is what it is just sort of the full scope and the intensity of the services that are provided make it appropriate for sort of a smaller number of clientele. I will note, we consider this program to be incredibly successful. Their average length of time from referral to the program to being placed in housing is 5 days. Which I think if you're familiar with sort of typical housing placement programs, you'll be astonished at that number. I certainly was. And 6 of the clients who've gone through it have already graduated from the program into their own permanent and stable housing. So the number of clients to the dollar amount, is appropriate for the sort of services that are being provided. And happy to field anything else. Again, sorry that my camera doesn't seem to be working.
Thank you. It's more important to hear you than to see you. I appreciate the explanation. Thank you.
Further discussion? Ready to vote then on Resolution D? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're next going to go to Resolution H. Greg?
Thank you, Dan. Resolution H, I'd like to move Doc ID 13395, the adoption of local law number C of 2025, a local law adopting the modification of Article 2 hotel room occupancy tax law.
Is there a second? Veronica seconds.
We've got Nick here from our planning department. My understanding that these changes that Nick worked on with our deputy county attorney and other folks from finance and a collection of individuals was to make modifications to the hotel, essentially the hotel law that we have on our books that clarifies short-term rentals, what booking platforms are, adding some definitions, also firming up some enforcement mechanisms and registration systems for short-term rentals. As Nick always provides a very detailed memo outlining many of the changes attached with that law, and then you can also see the red line version of the law as it's proposed in your packet as well. So with that, if there's questions for Nick or myself, happy to field those now.
Questions or comments? Resolution H.
One thing I do want to highlight is that this, by opting into this, there will be some additional revenue for short-term rental registration, which is about $125 per short-term rental unit, right, Nick?
That's the law states it's $125 per unit. It's a 2-year registration. So we would see that effectively over a 2-year span.
And then also the sales tax, which these were historically exempt from sales tax based, what was the bungalow exemption or something like that, are now sales taxable. So the sales tax that was referenced from short-term rentals in the county administrator's budget was new sales tax, wasn't sales tax that was being taken from our original or our current sales tax allocation. But this is new sales tax on short-term rentals. So this is again a new taxable item for us in the county.
That'll go to the airport.
Deborah.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then does this 44.1 million in sales tax that's included in your budget presentation, does that include this additional tax from this law?
It would include, that's the additional tax that's included in
From
the.
short-term rentals?
Yep, and the airport support, yep.
Okay, thank you.
And to be clear, the sales tax went into effect in March. It's a statewide law. It's actually unrelated to the local law before you tonight.
Correct, yes. We're already collecting sales tax, to Nick's point, on short-term rentals, but it's worthy to talk about during this process.
I have a question. We had one of the speakers, members of the public earlier, asked about enforcement. Could anyone speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, Nick clarified that a little bit, and I followed up with the member of the public who came to speak about that, but I know some of the safety questions which were referred to, and then obviously Maury, feel free to jump in, but the operator self-identifies and attests that they have the safety measures and mechanisms in place. And then if there's a complaint or a violation found out by the county, that the county would work with local code enforcement to coordinate some sort of resolution with that individual. Is that a fair summation?
That's accurate. Yeah, that's accurate. Yep.
Exactly.
Great, everyone agrees. Any other discussion? Okay, ready to vote then on Resolution H? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay, what's going to happen next is we are going to take a recess, and you're going to get a few minutes to go do what you need to do, but then it's our photo shoot. So I see people working on their hair. So don't go too far for too long. We're going to come back here, do some photos, and then come back into session. And we're going to be taking two photos. One is just the legislators, and then one is the legislators and any staff that are in the room. Okay? Thank you. We're in recess. And let's see where we are. We are up to the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. Lee Shurtleff, Chair.
I'll be brief, Dan. Facilities and Infrastructure met on August 21st. The two main areas of discussion that day had to do with Green Facilities Phase 2 and the airport. And Terry Carroll advised us that the boiler project has moved ahead and the new boiler is in place at the Human Services Building. He is working, continuing to work on the solar canopy at the Health Department, and that movement is pending completion of ground lease agreements and discussions with NYSEG and Cornell University to make that happen on the facility. The airport reported on a number of things, and I just wanted to call to your attention, last week Senator Schumer and Gillibrand announced a series of grants that were made to the Tompkins Regional Airport, and most of those grants that made the news were acted upon in acceptance in anticipation of their announcement at our June 3rd meeting. But the fifth grant that was under discussion was the one that was acted upon tonight regarding the geothermal addition at the airport. Roxanne did brief us on a couple of other items. The Part 139 inspection went exceedingly well, and there was one item that needed to be addressed, a minor one from what we could see, having to do with the infrastructure that supports the wind socks. Also, I wanted to make mention that the flights with United to Dulles have been running at an 87% load factor, and that compares to the ones to JFK that are running at about 82%. So that's a nice lead in to the additional flight to Washington that will begin in the month of October. And that, just for those that are out there listening, has a departure time of 10:28 a.m. So you can be in Washington leaving here at mid-morning and down there at about noon, beginning in October. Third item, I just want to make mention of the highway manager selection interview process will be beginning this month, and the committee is meeting tomorrow to outline how those interviews will occur. The fourth thing I did want to make mention of is that Fernando de Aragon, who's been the executive director of Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council for, Mike, 30 years probably, is retiring on September 12th, and his replacement, Tom Knight, will be beginning with us on September 8th. And I just want to acknowledge Fernando's contributions to the city and the county and the Transportation Council, and God knows how many millions of dollars Fernando has guided through the Metropolitan Planning Organization that ITCTC represents to us, and we thank him for that service and look forward to our future work with Tom. And our next committee meeting is on September 18th, and we've already dealt with the one resolution that was on the consent agenda and then considered separately.
I was just going to mention, I think Fernando is the only person that's ever been in that position. I think it was created, he got the job, and no, there was somebody else?
There was somebody for a short term before him.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, Shauna.
Yeah, I had a question in regards to the grants that are upcoming and the, I haven't actually seen the grants that were going to be given by the federal government. But I wanted to just check in and see if we might be able to see the local share, because tonight we approved $336,000 that came from the airport fund balance. And while I absolutely love, and it's not free money because we all know that we all pay taxes and essentially we just get that money back to our community. But I would like to know what the local cost is going to be for these upcoming grants, because as we know, like, nothing is free. And 8 years ago, whenever many of us started, we embarked on this renovation for the airport. It was a lot more money than we ever thought it would be. We're still paying debt service on that. And tonight we approved $336,000 out of the fund balance. And while I think geothermal is absolutely incredible, and I'm glad that we're able to do it, it's money that they could have used for operations for this upcoming year that they're going to be asking for in 2026. So I would actually like to see the grants that are going to be coming forward for the airport, because like I said, while I love free money, I don't want to keep providing money whenever it's really tight to the airport.
Given the proposal that's incorporated into the administrator's budget and the dedication of the $1.9 million annually, and the fact that a part of this proposal is meant to lower the cost to the airlines, I would expect that there will be a discussion about what the fund balances are and how those funds are being allocated. So yes, and I believe the airport is expecting that, as well as county administration. But so noted.
Any other discussion, questions? Randy?
I'd just like to add something on green facilities that Terry Carroll shared with us today. On the federal level, solar and wind types of grants or reimbursements, tax credits have kind of gone away, but geothermal has not. So we'll be applying for a 30% tax credit, like we received about $1.8 million earlier this year to do some of the green facility jobs, the new boiler system. And so that will be something that still is on the table. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Anything else for the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee? Okay, thank you. Next up, Government Operations Committee, Amanda Champion, Chair.
Thank you. I will also be brief. We meet on this coming Thursday at 2 o'clock. Sadly, I will not be able to be there, and I believe Dan Nolan won't be there, so Mike Lane is going to chair the meeting. Thank you, Mike, for doing that. So Rich and Greg, you must show up or there won't be quorum. Thursday at 2. You better be there. That's all.
It's important to matter every once in a while.
Okay, questions or comments for Amanda? Okay, thank you. Next up is Health and Human Services Committee. So we already did the resolution. Travis, do you have anything else to report?
Just real quick, we last met on August 20th. We'll meet again September 17th. We had a few resolutions go through, and we received a really good report from the Food Bank of the Southern Tier. It's probably worth checking out if you're interested. That's about it.
Questions or comments for Travis? Okay, thank you. Next up, Housing and Economic Development Committee, Greg Mezzi, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Tomorrow we'll meet, so Wednesday, September 3rd at 3 p.m. here in Chambers. As part of our agenda, which came out of our last meeting, we're going to shift our conversation around the unhoused and that population and how it impacts the youth and young individuals in our community. We often talk about single individuals or adult individuals in the context of unhoused and homeless issues. But we're going to have a Department of Social Services preventative services for unhoused children and families presentation. We're going to talk about the social service bus tickets, and then also from our youth service, our youth understanding youth homelessness as it relates to Tompkins County. And then our Planning and Sustainability Department is going to give us an update on the New York State County Infrastructure Grant Award. And then we're also going to have a conversation about the Community Housing Development Fund Round 25 awards. So should be a relatively interesting meeting tomorrow at 3.
Questions or comments for the
If you want to wear safety orange to try to compete with the GO committee, if you look good in orange, feel free to rock it out. If not, I'll have some safety vests that you can wear for the meeting.
Okay, any questions or comments? Thank you. Next up, Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee, Ann Corman, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. We have not met since the last legislature meeting, but we will be meeting this Friday. It's a different date than we usually meet due to the holiday. So we will be meeting again Friday at 1 o'clock here at this chamber. And on our agenda, we have a couple of interesting things. One is about, I think it's interesting, I'll say that. What to do about local leachate management from the landfills. And we'll also have an update on the county's policy on environmentally preferred procurement. I know Amanda's very interested and some other folks on that. And there's a lot of data in the agenda packet about what the county has been doing. So please take a look at that. And we are going to have from the planning department a report discussion on the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, reconsideration of endangerment finding comment. And please come and learn as what that's going to be about. I don't know either, so it'll be a surprise to all of us. And then we're going to have a report and discussion on protecting the county's farmland, food, and drinking water from contaminated sewage sludge. And we've had an environmental group come to us and ask if we might be interested in passing a local law about that. So please come and learn about that. There's also a lot of information in the packet already too about that. And we are going to then lastly have an executive session to talk about strategy for the county's participation in NYSEG's rate case. So if you had any comments that you want to share, that would be the time to do it. You could also send an email and we could include your comments of things that you'd like us to include in the rate case. And lastly, I just want to mention, I think it was Shauna had asked, but regarding the data center that TerraWolf has leased, I think for 80 years, has a ground lease at the old Cayuga power plant. And so in doing a little research, it looks like they put up data centers, AI centers. And so that was part of the discussion at the case board, the Climate and Sustainable Energy their last meeting. So I'm hoping that, they're going to talk about possibly giving us like a data sheet or some more information on that, because we have some knowledgeable people that could look into that for us. And I think that's all. Veronica, did I forget anything else? I think that's about it.
Questions or comments for Ann? Randy.
Yes, at the Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board meeting, we get a presentation regarding the sewage sludge as well. And it was really interesting. And basically it's municipal waste that is treated in some way and then spread on farms. And generally I think it was unanimous that the board felt that a local law made sense. So I just wanted to share that.
Okay, great. Yeah, because we wanted to, that was a discussion at the case board and talking about it locally, that we wanted to make sure that we worked with the Ag and Farmland Protection Board. You can look through the information, but some farmland has been permanently, I don't know permanently, how long permanently is, but contaminated with forever chemicals in different states already. And so we want to make sure we get the information out and possibly, look at passing a local law to protect our farmers and our farmland and our food. And our water, lots of things.
Anybody else? Mike Lane.
Here I go with history again, but interesting to hear you're going to be talking about that land application of the sludge. Back in the 1980s when I was mayor in Dryden and we were trying to get a grant for an upgrade of our sewer plant, among other things, we had to study that as a potential use of farmland to dispose of our sludge.
Right.
We didn't like it back then, but we did have to study it.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Ann. Next up, Public Safety Committee, Rich John, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. The Public Safety Committee met last week, Tuesday, and we talked about a few different things. One was we continued our discussion about jail numbers, and particularly how to develop a methodology that when the point comes to really focus on the public safety building, what kind of numbers make sense in terms of how many inmates will likely be there. And it's a really hard thing to do because you're trying to predict the future. But there are a lot of inputs that we identified that you can take and try to make a reasonable estimate. We also had a conversation about a resolution that will come to the legislature at a future meeting on some proposals for increased security at county buildings. And that's an unfortunate thing that we have to think about, but we do. And so that will be coming forward. The other thing that we did not talk about, but we had thought we were going to get our consultant giving us a report on ambulance and emergency medical services in the county. We anticipate getting that report for our next meeting, which makes it more complicated in terms of considering anything in this budget cycle, but that should be useful information in any event going forward. We will be meeting on September 30th next month rather than the week before because we had some conflicts, but that's a Tuesday, September 30th at 1 o'clock.
Any questions for the Public Safety Committee? Okay, thank you. Next up, Tompkins Intergovernmental Relations Committee, Shauna Black, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. We did not meet recently, and our next meeting, I believe, is next month. A few of us will be headed to NYSEC in Niagara Falls next week, and I am on the board of NYSEC, and they did send me my binder, which is always super informative because it really defines what the county priorities are for all of the counties around New York State. And so I did want to read some of those priorities that NYSEC is going to be lobbying for. One of them is the do not harm, reject shifting new costs to county taxpayers. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, they called it OBBBA, created extraordinary fiscal uncertainty for New York. Federal changes to Medicaid and SNAP will increase costs for the state and counties by billions of dollars annually, with a large share potentially falling to counties in New York City, depending on the state's response to the federal cuts. Local governments cannot absorb both new state-driven costs and federal cost shifts without raising property tax and cutting essential services, possibly both. And so essentially that's going to be probably the biggest lobbying that's going to happen by NYSEC. The other thing is protect the county Medicaid cap, requiring the counties and New York City to pay $7.6 billion of the state's Medicaid program is a major contributor to New York State's leading national property tax burden. In fact, counties in New York pay more for Medicaid than all of the other counties in the nation combined. The existing Medicaid cap must remain intact to protect local taxpayers. So that's obviously something that we want to fight for. I can't imagine that impacting our property tax even more. The next thing is expand the county partnership program. The 2026 enacted budget included $50 million for a new county partnership program to facilitate economic development, housing, infrastructure, and other priorities. And then another priority that I think will be interesting for my colleagues is enact extended producer responsibility, or EPR legislation for packaging and print paper. And essentially what that would do is make the manufacturers responsible through cash incentive for recycling and shifting that responsibility for material recovery instead of local taxpayers picking up the dime. And then the last thing that I think is also pretty interesting and might actually help us attracting more employee or a bigger pool of employees is increasing the salary cap for retired public employees from the $35,000 cap to $50,000.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Deborah?
Yeah, I was wondering, when you're up there talking to the bigwigs, have they thought about lobbying for cost containment in Medicaid instead of just...
No, I haven't heard a single word about that.
It seems like this might be a good time to look into that.
Yeah.
They keep promising they're going to do it, and they never do. But part of the problem is we have no control over what they're willing to cover by the plan. We just have to keep paying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Other questions or comments for the Tiger Committee? Okay. Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
Next up, Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Veronica Pillar, Chair.
Thank you. WDIC met last Wednesday. It was a fairly crisp meeting, as many of our major attendees were away, but we did have a good discussion about exploring creating subcommittees and/or working groups for this committee so that more things can get done outside of the committee meetings, because unlike the standing committees, we don't really have staff who report to us about their full-time work. Our next meeting is going to be, I just had this, Wednesday, September 24th at 3 p.m. as usual. The October, November, and December meetings of WDIC are all moving off of their regular schedule for various conflicts, but I will announce that when they are closer.
Questions or comments for the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee? Okay, thank you. Next up, Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, Mike Lane, Chair.
Well, our next regular meeting is going to be on September 11th, but lo and behold, on September 4th, this Thursday, we will have our first EBC meeting at 5 o'clock here, and we look forward to having as many of you come as possible. I want to particularly give a shout out to candidates. We have some here tonight that have been listening to the budget presentation. We have others that have not been able to stay for the whole meeting, but it means a lot to us to have these candidates who will be, some of them will be sitting in these chairs next year to come and learn. And with the EBC, we sent out letters to all the candidates who haven't already served on the legislature, and invited them to come and sit and listen to what we do. There won't be any privilege of the floor. We never do that at EBCs. But there's an opportunity to learn. And I think, I hope we get a lot of the candidates to come to that, as many as they can. And I would hope, Norma, if you could, please, you mentioned about the schedule of the committee, of the departments, and if there could be extra copies of that made so that they could be handed out to those candidates or others who might want that. That would be appreciated. Don't have any resolutions. Deborah, is there anything else tonight?
I just can't wait to start the budget hearings.
Well, you look like you're excited about it, as always.
Well, I think Randy's probably more excited than anybody else.
Well, he always is.
Any questions or comments for the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next up, we have 2 individual member filed resolutions, and they're both from Lee.
I'd like to move resolution number I, authorization to execute renewals of snow and ice agreements with towns in Tompkins County for the Highway Department, ID number 13524.
Travis seconds.
The county contracts with 6 municipalities on a 3-year basis for snow and ice removal on county roads. And in the transition, this did not get forwarded to the August meeting, and the contracts expire at the end of September, and if we're to wait for the next facilities and infrastructure meeting, it'd be well into October or November before these contracts can be executed. And we can't predict the weather, but it'd be good to have the snow and ice contracts in place by the 1st of October.
Very
Just
good.
in case.
Discussion of resolution I. Well, I'm just going to take a moment to say this is a really nice, quiet, cooperative agreement with the municipalities. There has been in the past times when the municipalities maybe didn't get along with each other, didn't get along with the county, but lately it's been really great. The towns really appreciate this agreement. The county appreciates it. It works for everybody. It's a wonderful thing. You never hear complaints about it. That's good news. Ready to vote? Resolution I. All in favor? Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you.
I'd like to move resolution J, authorization to accept dormitory authority of the state of New York, DASNY, State and Municipalities Grant, Department of Emergency Response, ID number 13457.
Rich seconds.
Didn't mean to step on the chairman of public safety's toes, but this is again a late coming grant from the Department of Emergency Response, and it is used to support a wide variety of radio equipment, and the county and the various public safety agencies together, I would dare estimate there's in excess of probably 800 pieces of radio equipment that have to be replaced on a fairly routine basis. The DASNY grant provides a strong support to maintaining that equipment in cooperation with the various public responder agencies.
Deborah.
This is kind of a off-the-wall question, but why is the dormitory authority funding radio equipment?
I'll go back into a previous life. When a lot of these, just from my own knowledge, when a lot of these grants were set up underneath the state 911 program, some of it was funded through allocations that came through the assembly, and some of it came through allocations in the state senate. We're going back 20 years plus, and the dormitory authority was always seemed to be the one that the assembly would designate to manage some of their earmarks. And
bizarre.
The dormitory authority has backed some of these with bonds going back decades.
There is a longer story about this.
Jessica's.
Jessica's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry.
And some of it relates to the 911 surcharge that is imposed, and the counties have forever been trying to claw back.
We have Jessica Verfus joining us remotely. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, good evening. Lee is correct. This is a grant that's coming from Assemblymember Hellis's office to help us support the radio equipment replacement. The reason it didn't get put on Public Safety Committee, there was a variety of reasons, but we wanted to make sure that we had it approved prior to spending, obviously. But we wanted to make sure that we spend it before the end of 2025. It's a rather large grant, so we wanted the time to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Rich.
Yeah, Lee, thank you for making sure this got on the agenda. I had a chance to talk to Mike Steitley about it. This is a really good thing. Interestingly, the radios, this will help all of the local volunteer firefighters and emergency responders throughout the county. But there was a grant a long time ago that the county got and paid for radios. And it's been a real sore point for some of the towns who thought that historically the county would be buying them radios. These handheld Motorola radios are very expensive. And so it's been difficult for the towns to get on a cycle where they could replace them. But you need them if you want emergency response. So this is a really timely grant because there was a grant a while ago, all those radios were bought about at the same time, so there's a high failure rate right now. This will really help fill a gap and help keep us safe. So a good thing.
Randy.
Yeah, I think you answered my question. I know that Enfield's been having to replace some of theirs, and they're $1,200, $1,500, they're quite expensive. Maybe they're more than that now, right? But would this be an allocation to each individual fire department? How does it work?
I think Jessica could address that.
Yeah, that is the plan, yes. There will be a set allocation to every fire department, yes.
If you could, once you figure that out, I'd like to know what that is.
Sure. I think it will depend largely on the price per radio and how many we can actually purchase with these funds. But yes, we can definitely provide that to you once we have it.
Great. Thank you.
Dan Nolan, did you want to speak?
Oh, no, that was just my comment. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? Okay, let's have a vote then on Resolution J. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. That brings us to the minutes of the previous meeting, August 19th. Will somebody move those minutes, please? Randy moves, Deborah seconds. Any discussion? Lee, was that a discussion? No? Okay. Let's have a vote then. All in favor of the minutes? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Is there any unfinished business? Okay, in just a minute, we're going to have a vote on going into executive session. The executive session will be in accordance with Article 7, Section 105 of the Public Officers Law for the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property, or the proposed acquisition of securities, or sale or exchange of securities held by such public body, but only when publicity would substantially affect the value thereof. Is there somebody that would move to go into executive session, please? Deborah moves, Dan Nolan seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. It's going to take a few minutes to shut the cameras down, and then we'll start up again in 5 or so minutes.